All right. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate the 110 participants now coming into the room on such short notice. I certainly appreciate that. My name is Martin Brewer, the superintendent with the Port Angeles School District. And we're here tonight to provide accurate information on what took place today at Port Angeles High School. With me this evening, I have a number of panelists that I want to introduce before we get started. We have Tanner Zart as the principal of Port Angeles High School. I have Tiffany Bloor, assistant principal at Port Angeles High School. Lisa Joslin, which is the director of CTE programs at Port Angeles High School. Coco Carlson is on the call this evening, and she was at Port Angeles High School helping with some administrative functions. She's a district instructional coach. We also have Dave Arend, which works for Port Angeles Police Department. Thank you, Dave, for attending this evening. And we also have Sergeant Kevin Miller from Port Angeles Police Department here as well. So with that being said, today we did have a pretty significant event at Port Angeles High School that we want to talk through in the to be fair and transparent with all of our communications. And so we started, trying to craft something to send to our community, but I thought this better to just have, open dialogue this evening. So today, what happened after the event is, the administrative team at Port Angeles High School debriefed on this situation from today. Then, I also debriefed with Police Chief Brian Smith, as well as the staff at Port Angeles High School had an opportunity to debrief. So this evening is the opportunity for us to share that information with our community so that we can move forward together and be stronger and know that, the events of today really define how we move forward, as well as, how safe our facilities are in the Port Angeles school system. So with that being said, I'm going to start this evening with Principal Tanner Zart, and he's going to outline the summary of events today, as well as the staffing and systems that were in place today. So Tanner, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for making time on a busy work day. It was important to me and Marty that we had time to just explain to everyone what happened today and make sure that everyone understood our response and our coordination with the police department. So I'll start off with just a summary of today's events and kind of fill in the gaps and talk about what our procedures are that kind of inform that. I want to thank, my administrative team and my security team. They did amazing work today. Tiffany, Lisa, Coco, our campus supervisor, Kelsey Elaine, they performed well and above beyond their duties today. So if you see them around in the community, give them a big thank you. So we received a threatening phone call this morning. There was an individual on the phone stating that that person was going to bring rifle to the school. They said on the call that they were standing at the front entrance of the school and they were going to walk in and that they were going to come into the school and kill everyone. It sounded like a very unwell person. There was the sound on the phone call of a bell. That bell sounded a lot like our bell system. We have a very distinct bell system, so that was one of the things that was alarming. At that time, police were fully responding and coming to the campus. And when we learned of the threat, we went on full lockdown. The entire campus was locked down within minutes, less than 5 minutes. We had every classroom secured, locked doors, lights are off. Students were taking shelter and avoiding windows, all of the things that we train for every single day, every single month and every other month when we do our drills. Police and first responders, they were on campus within minutes. It was incredible, the level of response. We had over a dozen responders on campus, and they were on campus immediately at the door, getting entry to the building, actively searching for any possible threat. So we were all very supportive and thankful for their response. We were in a lockdown for approximately 40 minutes today. Why we were in lockdown is because during that time, law enforcement was going door to door, checking and every single part of our very large campus, checking every single corner to make sure there were no active threats on campus. So we went door to door, we checked every single classroom, and we put eyes on every single student to make sure that we were all safe. So our law enforcement community went above and beyond to keep our kids safe today. At approximately 11:10, the police, the lead commander came back and reported to me that the campus had been checked and all rooms were secured and there was no threat on campus. So at that time, we made the determination with law enforcement that we could lift the lockdown. We did lift the lockdown at approximately 11:10 and then we did ask teachers to hold students in class so that we could determine next steps forward. During that 10 to 15 minutes, we made the decision to release students at 11:30. We made that decision because I believe that that was in the best interest of students and staff. It had been a very stressful experience for all students and all staff. And I just thought it was too much of a disruption to the school day in order for school to, continue in that manner. Staff, once we made a plan with staff to reunite families, we had transportation. They were, it was a wonder. They were at the building within a just very short 20 minutes. They were here. We had multiple buses in the loading zone. We had staff reuniting, routing students to their buses so they could get home. We had all students who need to reunite with their families on the lower part of the campus in front of the 100 hall. And we had staff helping to reunite students and families. And it was a really great showing and a great demonstration of our systems. So that's a brief overview of the event itself. If there's any questions about that, I'm happy to follow up with anyone who wants to contact my office about that. The reason for the call of the lockdown was the nature of the threat. It was a very scary phone call. And, when I am concerned about student safety, I always err on the side of safety. So we made the call to go into a full lockdown. During the time of the lockdown, we found out that it may have been a hoax and that the other schools were experiencing that in the region. So that informed kind of the response of the law enforcement and stuff like that. But at the time we had no indication and it was a very scary call. I'm so proud of our staff, they responded quickly, urgently. They followed our procedures. Staff went above and beyond to make sure the students were safe, getting students into classrooms, making sure that all the hallways were cleared, bathrooms were cleared. Every single student was accounted for and brought into a safe location. We recently trained on a lockdown drill. We do this multiple times throughout the year. Our school district follows the run, hide, fight model. That model indicates that, when we're on a lockdown like this one, unless we can hear gunshots or something effective, there's an immediate threat on campus next to a classroom. Staff have been trained to lock down until we feel that there's an immediate threat in their vicinity where they have to make the decision to either run, hide, or fight. Marty can speak to more details on that process. If shots had been fired on campus, we would have tripped into that mode of that protocol. We were trained on that in the beginning of the year, and we're gonna, with the support of the Port Angeles Police Department, we're gonna continue to train on that and refine that system going forward. Speaking with police, they said that they were really proud of our staff. They said that all of our classrooms were locked. Students were taking shelter. They were very impressed by the response of our staff and how well we took care of our students. Every single door was locked. Staff made sure that they confirmed law enforcement before they opened the door and allowed them into the classroom. So I was just, overall, it was a stressful day, but we did everything and followed our procedures so that, we ensured the safety of all students and staff. Next steps going into tomorrow. We know that this is a stressful event for staff and students. We'll have extra counselors on hand, working out of the counselor's office for staff and students. So if your child has had adverse response to this, as can be understandable, we encourage them to come down to the guidance office, and we'll have extra help to work with kiddos tomorrow. And if families choose to keep their students home due to the stress of today, we totally understand that. And so all I ask is that parents call the high school so that we can excuse that attendance. So overall, very proud of my team. We did a very stressful day, but I think we performed at the best of our abilities, and we followed our system. So very proud of our work today, and I'm very thankful to our police, to our law enforcement community who rapidly responded and did everything they possibly humanly could to make sure our kids were safe.
Thank you, Tanner. All right, Dave Arend or Kevin Miller, I'm not sure who's scheduled to speak from PAPD, but I'll turn it over to you at this point in time for a follow-up.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. I just want to say from the responders' point of view, everything that happened at the high school today went as well as it could have. We're very happy to see the type of response that we did from the school staff and from the students. Everybody did exactly what they needed to. And it was very apparent to us as we were going through this evolving incident that is something that has been prepared for and drilled. And I thought the communication between us and school staff was excellent. And it seemed like the school is as well prepared as could be. And yeah, it is about the best that we could ask for under the circumstances.
I would just say I was super impressed with everybody. Teachers were great. There were a lot of classrooms that were barricaded, windows covered, windows out. And as I was going through checking all the classrooms, all the doors were secure. You couldn't hear a peep. Couple of things just for everybody to keep in mind. One of the things that got overwhelmed is we only had 2 dispatchers, and they are getting inundated with 911 calls. And they did a fantastic job with getting us all, despite the phone calls coming in, getting us all the information that we needed to continue and get more resources on scene. So we had lots of other agencies coming and helping out. But all the parents that showed up in the parking lot were super cooperative with the officers and totally understanding. We were able to, it was a pretty quick response and a pretty quick coverage of the school. So I was pleasantly surprised. So.
Yeah, and I'm also going to just throw a quick shout out to our partner agencies, the Clallam County Sheriff's Office and the Lower Elwha Police Department, who both of those agencies responded with numerous personnel, and they were able to help us secure a perimeter around the school, which allowed us who are on duty on patrol to be able to effectively conduct a search of the campus in a systematic way. So we want to thank them for their assist as well.
Thank you very much, Dave and Kevin, for coming this evening. I certainly appreciate it. And your support today was nothing short of amazing. One individual that I forgot to introduce as a panelist tonight is Kelsey Lane, is also on the call. And she is the security representative for Port Angeles High School. So Kelsey, thank you for joining this evening. Tanner referenced a little bit about our training, and I want to take this opportunity to share with our community just exactly what we do for training. We are a run, hide, fight district. And, back, 10, 15 years ago after Columbine, there was a best practice that was kind of defined at that point in time to just lock down and stay put and hide and hope, for the best. Now with current strategies and practices, run, hide, fight is now best practice. And that is what we implement K through 12 in the Port Angeles School District. So in this case, where during the events of today, the first call of an administrative team at any one of our schools is to go into lockdown. When we feel or we know or we have information that references there is a threat on our campus or coming to our campus, we will go into a system lockdown. And every teacher, every staff member, has protocols in their room or space that outlines, what a lockdown looks like. From there, things start to evolve a little bit. And now we need individuals, and then in this case, our staff, to think on their feet. And they did a great job today, because when we went into the reaction of the lockdown, there was no threat on campus. There wasn't anybody that saw an individual with a weapon. There wasn't anybody that, heard gunshots. And so everybody stayed put, which is exactly what Port Angeles High School should have done today. If that situation were to evolve, and it would lead into, hearing things. You could hear, doors being breached. You can hear glass being broken. You can hear screams. You can hear shots. Now we want our staff to go into, and our students to go into, what we call run, hide, fight. And it's real simple. If you can run safely, you run. Okay. And that's an assessment that each individual has to make, given the circumstances or the variables around their classroom. So if there's an opportunity to run, we will run. If there's not an opportunity to run, we will stay in the hide. And at last resort, and this is a personal choice, we will fight. And so at the beginning of the year, and Tanner referenced this a little bit, system-wide, we have a video that all of our staff and administrators and showed to each of our staff members across K-12. And, that video outlines, or it shows a model of what this would look like in action. And I did share that with Police Chief Brian Smith so that I could get his endorsement for that. And he did endorse the video. And so that video was shown at the beginning of the year, but we went beyond that. And then we had our, our partners and in this work, PAPD, primarily our SRO, Jackson Van Dusen, went around to each of the schools and did a follow-up and allowed for Q&A with our staff. And so, looking at what happened today at Port Angeles High School, every one of our staff members and all of our students did exactly what they should have done. So for that, I am very grateful and thankful, and job well done. Job well done to every staff member and every student that was at Port Angeles High School today. I want to talk then a little bit about communication. We feel like we're a little bit on the cutting edge of communication here in the Port Angeles School District. Last summer, when I met with Police Chief Brian Smith, we know that in times of an emergency of this nature, communication is always the greatest barrier. And so we, at that point in time, last summer, as last July, Brian introduced a concept to our district called ES Chat. And ES Chat is an app that's available only to, Port Angeles School District administrators, as well as emergency responders in Clallam County. And so right now we're connected between our administrative phones and the emergency responders from PAPD. And so, today, actually, and I don't think Brian Smith would care that I share this, Brian Smith was in Kitsap County somewhere. And when the call came over ES Chat, he was in the loop immediately. And in fact, when I was responding to the event at Port Angeles High School, asking for clarification of information, I had an officer respond to me. And so that form of communication will, that heightened level of communication will really save lives and save time. And so for that, I think PAPD working with our district to, make that connection so that we have real-time communication between our administrators and the emergency responders. So want to make sure I reach out to PAPD and Brian for introducing us to that, and it paid dividends today. I also want to talk a little bit about communication. So I have heard, some feedback today, and I understand as a dad of 4 daughters myself, these are very stressful times. and the anxiety is extremely high. And so today at approximately 10:40, this call started to evolve. And it wasn't until I think 10:57 when the first communication went out to the community out of district resources. I want to explain to the community why we have a captive audience here around, like, why would there be a 20-minute delay? Just what's the purpose of that? Purpose of that is, one, all of our resources initially in the very first 5 to 7 minutes of this event, everything that we have is solely focused on keeping our staff and students safe. We're not thinking in that first 5 to 7 minutes about communication. Everything we have in our district, from myself to the assistant soup, which were both on site, all the cabinet members that were down here at the district office were on call and capable of providing any additional supports that I would need in the field. Like, we're totally focused on the response in the first, I'm going to say 5 to 7, it could be 5 to 10 minutes, because we want to protect, life at that point in time and do everything we can to make sure that we're as secure as possible. Once that initial, phase is completed, now it's the job of the district to get accurate information. Now we've got to figure out, like, what do we know? When did we know it? And, then, those are the questions: what, how, when, why? And so we gotta, if we're going to communicate with the community, we want to share fair and accurate information. And that's what I think our community expects. And I know that's what they deserve. Then you have, after that's completed, then we go into, we have to write it. Okay. So we write what we know. And then there's an editing process, and then it goes into our messaging system, and it starts, and we message, we could be messaging thousands of people. And so that also takes a little bit of time. So I want the community to hear from me loud and clear today that communication to each of you, when there's a heightened event like this on any one of our campuses, is a top priority. It is one of the top priorities. But the top priority is our initial reaction to respond and implement systems to potentially save lives. And so that's why you would get anywhere from a 20 to a 25-minute delay in that initial communication. And so I felt like it was really important for the community to understand just kind of the thought process that goes into and the actions that are going into that communication and when that does occur. So thank you for that time to share that. Any other panelists wish to share anything else this evening before we finish this meeting? Okay, I certainly appreciate your attendance this evening. Now you know what we know. I am very complimentary of all staff and students and all emergency law enforcement responders of Clallam County today. Sergeant Kevin Miller, did you have something to say? Okay, hold on just a minute. Let me get you to unmute. Hold on.
All right, can you hear me? Okay, so I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. This call came in at 10:25 hours, which they're having to listen to. And if for those that saw the recording, it was very low and hard to hear. This was dispatched within 1 minute from them listening to that recording at 10:26. First officer on scene at 10:28. That's a pretty fast response. And that they got flooded. That's a pretty quick response. And when we got there, that school was locked down. I mean, it was pretty impressive. Those are pretty good times. So 2 minutes.
Yep. Thank you, Sergeant Miller. So with that being said, I appreciate your attendance this evening. It's much appreciated. You know, our debriefings that have happened throughout our system, from administration to staff to with the law enforcement officers, is an opportunity for us to learn and continue to get better at responding to these types of events. But the one thing I want to leave you with this evening is this team, which includes all of our community partners, is 100% committed to the safety and well-being of all of our staff and students. So thank you for coming out this evening. If you have additional questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to me at mbrewer@portangeloschools.org. And also don't hesitate to reach out to Principal Tanner Zart at tzahrt@portangeloschools.org, you know, so that we can hear your feedback. Again, thank you very much for your time this evening, and thank to our partners and all of our panelists this evening. Thank you, and we will see you again very soon. Have a great evening.